What's up, people? Today I'm finally getting to my horror movie Blu-ray reviews coming up for you guys next. So, getting into the Halloween Blu-ray reviews, I'm going to start with Bram Stokers Dracula. That came out last year in 4K on standard Blu-ray. That means that basically it was just minted in 4K and then downmixed to put on Blu-ray. And then I'll get into the 4K Blu-ray that actually has the true 4K transfer that came out early October. So I'll start off with the Blu-ray just because of the fact that that's where I always start off, because that's where you guys most likely will see it the most. You know what? This is a pretty damn good upgrade from the original Blu-ray that came out when the format was still new. Don't even bother with that transfer, people. It is truly bad, and the only thing good about that disc is its audio, but the actual video transfer of that disc is terrible, and I have always hated it. It is soft as hell. This is a lot more crisp, it's a lot more lush, it's a lot more vibrant. It definitely has an upgraded color palette, and you definitely get the richness of the color palette of the movie. You know, this was filmed truly on film, and I do like the old school filmy quality that Coppola brought to this movie, and just like the red of Gary Oldman's cloak that he wears, that thing is just so cool. And you can definitely see a lot of definition, like in Dracula's hair and that kind of a thing. This is a really good transfer that you guys are sure to like, and it's a good Halloween pickup. I will give it a 8 out of 10. This is a really good transfer for this movie that is pretty old. Now getting into the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray of this movie that came out this October. You know, this is a tricky one for me just because of the fact that they literally packaged this thing with the 4K standard Blu-ray transfer that came out last year, and I don't really see a lot of difference between the two, to be quite honest with you. I know there is some difference in wide shots, and you can definitely see that. It's apparent that wide shots have more detail, but for a large majority of this movie, you get around the same clarity that you get on the standard Blu-ray, and for me, that is pretty disappointing. A lot of the grain is still there, but at the same point in time, this was shot on film, and you know what, there's only so much cleanup that they can do with this movie, so that is understandable. The HDR gets a marginal, and I mean marginable, uptick here. A lot of the colors pop more in this transfer, especially Dracula's robe, but for the most part, this transfer looks a hell of a lot like the standard Blu-ray transfer that just got the 4K uptick. And for that, I will have to give this a 7 out of 10, one notch below the standard Blu-ray, just because it doesn't give you guys enough of an oomph to really, you know, justify the purchase. But hey, that's just my opinion. So next, we're going to be getting into the audio of Dracula, and we're going to be talking about some Dolby Atmos, so it's all good, people. Coming up next. So getting into the audio of Bram Stokers Dracula, I will just say right off the top, people, both transfers come with the Dolby Atmos track, and that is pretty cool because not every Blu-ray comes with a Dolby Atmos track, so kudos to you guys. But how is this Dolby Atmos track? It's good. It's not great, but it's good. I will just say that it's one of the more underwhelming Dolby Atmos tracks that I have heard personally. It's just, it lacks oomph. Mainly, and I will just say right off the top, I love this score of this movie. I have always loved the score of this movie. Most people that know me know that I just like cellos. I have a thing for cellos. And this score has a lot of cellos. It's a lot of deep, bassy music. And I dig that about this score. But at the same point in time, I don't get that bassy feel from this Dolby Atmos track. I did in the older Blu-ray of Bram Stokers Dracula that had a lot of bass to it. This one, I feel like they tried to make more dynamic, and they tried to incorporate that more into the front speakers and even the rears, and while doing that, I feel like they didn't focus enough in putting it in the subs, and for that, I feel like you lose some of the bass in the score of this movie, and that's kind of the biggest disappointment here. Other than that, this is a more dynamic mix, especially during really odd scenes where people are getting possessed, and when the three women come after Keanu Reeves, you definitely hear it in your height speakers, and a lot of hissing and a lot of just crazy stuff going on, and you know what? That makes it pretty fun. I will just say that height speakers are kind of limited here. Also, when you have those creepy sounds when Dracula is lurking around, you do hear it sometimes in the height speakers, but it is very subtle. You know, I kind of give this mix some slack because obviously this movie wasn't created with Dolby Atmos in mind. It was made in, 1992. But at the same point in time, I do have to say that neither does Blade Runner, and Blade Runner sounds good in Dolby Atmos, and this just sounds meh. And for that, I will have to give this Dolby Atmos a 7 out of 10. I feel like they could have done better with this one, while it's still serviceable. So next, we're going to be getting into the special features of Bram Stokers Dracula, and you won't want to miss it. Coming up next. So getting into the special features of Bram Stokers Dracula. What we have here to start off is 2 audio commentaries. One audio commentary is an older audio commentary that features Francis Ford Coppola and a bunch of the production people that were involved with the movie. I feel like that is kind of a confusing commentary. I don't like commentaries with a whole slew of people in them. I find it confusing to keep track of who's talking, and this is definitely one of those audio tracks. It is hard to know who's talking at any particular point in time. And, I just prefer the other audio commentary where it is strictly just Francis Ford Coppola talking about the movie. I feel like he has a lot of information to share. He knows a lot about filmmaking, and he should, because he's been in film for a long damn time at this particular point in time in 1992. And he has a whole hell of a lot to share with you, and it is a very informative commentary track. And the featurettes are very informative here as well. You have a overall making of Bram Stokers Dracula featurette that's almost like a half an hour long. That thing was really fun to watch. And then you have another one that talks about the costume design, and specifically, you go into Gary Oldman's costume design as Dracula. That is really cool to see. And then you have another featurette that goes into the in-camera effects. That is a really cool one. That is actually probably my favorite one, because it really goes into how it was done back then, and hey, that's always cool to see. On top of that, you have 12 deleted scenes to look at. All of the featurettes and the deleted scenes are all in HD for us. And yeah, these are some real good quality special features. They are primarily on the Blu-ray and not on the 4K Blu-ray. But to be honest, that is what the majority of these releases that I am actually talking about on this channel do, and that is because of the fact that that's kind of a standard for these releases at this particular point in time. People don't know quite what to put on these 4K discs. They're either lazy or they just don't quite know what to do with the special features on the format at this particular point in time. But regardless, I will give these special features an 8 out of 10. These are actually some real quality special features for you guys. So next we are going to be getting into the last looks at Bram Stokers Dracula and my final score coming up for you guys next. So Bram Stokers Dracula is a really good quality horror movie for you guys if you haven't seen it already. It has a great cast with some hammy performances by Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. I can't stress that enough. It's hilarious. But yeah, you know what? You also got crazy-ass Gary Oldman, and he is one hell of a good time in this movie. You know, if you enjoy hammy performances, he chews up the screen in this movie. It is something really cool, and there are some really good quality effects for when the movie was made in 1992. And if you haven't seen my movie review video, I gave it an 8 out of 10, and if you add up all my scores for the actual Blu-ray of Bram Stokers Dracula, that comes out to a 31. And for the 4K version, it comes out to a 30. I just didn't think that the video quality of that transfer was to the level that a 4K transfer should be, so I gave it one notch lower. But overall, these are some quality discs that you guys might want to pick up for next Halloween. So coming up next for you guys, I do have my Cabin in the Woods Blu-ray review, and then the Bubba Hotep Blu-ray review, and then after that, I am going into DC. So subscribe so you can know when those videos are coming out. And comment below. Tell me if you think that this transfer is better than I think. I want to know. Comment below. And as always, guys, thank you for watching my videos so early on. You guys are great, and I will see all of you next time.